Several times I've seen the question on many forums, which is the best copywriting book to get? Or what are the must-reads for copywriters? And oftentimes I've made my own suggestions in terms of which are the best books to get. But I'd like to share with you one secret in terms of sharing, determining which books you should read. And I'll say, without hesitation, that you should always go with the classics. Now, here's why. Now, you'll find that the further back you go in terms of copywriting history, that the more substance that you're going to get, the more value per page that you'll get from any copywriting book. Every copywriter who is worth his salt agrees that Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins is a classic that any budding copywriters should get their hands on and should just devour. Why? Because the principles that are set down there are basically eternal principles. These are principles of advertising and copywriting and marketing on a whole that many other marketers and copywriters who came after Claude Hopkins actually have used. Okay, so scientific advertising, Claude Hopkins, or My Life in Advertising, also by Claude Hopkins as well too. Claude Hopkins was born in 1866 and died in 1932. Okay, now then after Claude Hopkins, we have the Robert Collier letter book. I cannot tell you how many marketing principles that have come from the Robert Collier letter book that I've seen being sold in courses that are worth from $2,000 to $5,000. I've seen many a marketing consultant who have used the principles that are in this book, and they have sold courses that are worth thousands upon thousands of dollars that you could get from just reading this book that costs less than $30. All the principles are here. It might appear daunting to read because it's 466 pages, but all the principles are here. Do I need to repeat that? All the principles that you need to know are here, and that's the value that you're actually going to get from reading a book like this. Now, the secret that I want to share with you here then is that you find then as you go back in history that you're going to get more value for your money. Okay, you're going to get more value for your money. You read the Robert Collier letter book, and then another book I've seen suggested over and over again is How to Write a Good Advertisement. A short course in copywriting by Victor O. Schwab. This is a book that comes highly recommended as well. It is simple to read. The principles are laid out. It is much shorter than the Robert Collier letter book. He actually gives you everything in 2 steps. It's about half as long as the Robert Collier letter book. It gives you all the principles laid down, step by step. But guess what? Basically, all the principles that you're going to find in this book were already there in the Robert Collier letter book. They have just been taken and translated. Maybe the language have been updated, but all the principles that you're going to find here in this book, you're going to find in the Robert Collier letter book. And many of the principles you're going to find in the Robert Collier letter book, you would have originally found in Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins. So basically what we find is that each generation of copywriters, they are basically standing on the shoulders of giants. They're standing on the shoulders of other copywriters that have come before. And if you want the real foundational principles, if you want the real meat without any bones, it means then you need to get your hands on the classics, what I refer to as the classics. These are the books that are going to give you the meat. These are what gurus today, so-called gurus today, are selling as the big secrets. Okay, they are not secrets. They are there if you just simply go and search for them. Okay. Now another highly recommended book, and basically this is one of my favorite. Is not the favorite. It's Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene M. Schwartz. And the beginning of this version that I have here says that this book was being sold on eBay for $900. I think I picked up this on Amazon.com, I think, for about $90, which is about 90% discount compared to what it was being sold on eBay for. And this is a classic book. classic book, very, very good book. I wouldn't recommend, if you're getting into copywriting, I wouldn't recommend that you make this your first book that you read, because it's a little academic and little difficult to understand if you have no background in copywriting, if you have no background in marketing. It shouldn't really be your first, but this is a classic. But guess what? The principles that you're going to find here, you would have already found you've got it in the Robert Collier letter book. You would have found it also in how to write a good advertisement by Schwab, and other copywriters that have gone before, such as the famous John Caples as well, who wrote that most famous headline. I sat down when they laughed at me when I sat down to play the piano, but when I began to play, and so forth. Okay, and then we come to one of my favorites as well too, in terms of simplicity, and what I recommend my copywriting students to read first, which is the Ultimate Sales Letter. And this is by Dan Kennedy. I think the first edition came out in the 1980s, and then later on it came, and later on I think this version is 2000. I think he also has a third version as well too. Very simple, point by point, to writing a sales, writing a sales letter. But guess what? All of these principles that you're going to find here in Dan Kennedy's book, you're going to find in the classic. Meaning, therefore, then, that if you get your hands on the classic, basically you need no other modern copywriting book, except that I get all of these books just to complete my own. Education, because I've been doing copywriting for such a long time, and after I've studied one book, I go on Amazon.com and I order some more books, as well, just to sometimes reading the same thing in a different way would help. Okay, so from my level of actually teaching copywriting, I have to know what's out there. I have to know what my students have, and therefore I buy all of these different copywriting books to see what you can learn from them. Sometimes you might learn one or two point that's in addition to what you knew before. Okay, case in point, here we have the web copy that sells, and this is by Mario Veloso. This has something about a good chapter in the back about email marketing and email subject line. But guess what? All the principles that you find here, you're going to find also in the classic, because these copywriters actually learned from the greats. They haven't invented anything new. They're basically repeating what has been said before. Now, of course, you can't blame these writers. In fact, I'm going to be publishing a book soon comparing the principles of copywriting and show how these principles came even before John Caples, even before Claude Hopkins. I'm going to go right back to biblical history, and you're going to see how the principles of persuasion have been there in human history for a very, very long time. For thousands and thousands of years. You're going to see that. And I'm hoping that I'll add something new in my book. That hopefully would be coming out in a few months, if I could just commit myself to really finishing this. But basically, what I hope that you get from the video is that if you really want to learn the principles, scientific marketing, Claude Hopkins, you can just Google that, look up Claude Hopkins and scientific principles. That is free, because it's now in the public domain. But the principles that you're going to learn there, it's going to improve your marketing. It's going to improve your copywriting. And you get a book like the Robert Collier letter book, and you commit yourself to actually reading through the principles and how he explains. He goes through almost every letter he wrote, those that were successful, those who were not successful. He explains to you why they were successful and why they were not successful. In fact, I saw one marketer who is actually in the process of launching a $2,000 system, who is sharing some secrets with a seminar in a clip that he gave as a as a teaser to the promotion of his product. And he was quoting almost everything from the Robert Collier letter book. And he's going to sell those same principles now for over $2,000. Those same principles that you could have gotten in this book for only less than $30. Okay. Now maybe you want the fancy stuff. Maybe you want the thing that you get in the high end stuff. If you go for if you go for a higher price. But what I want, the one secret I want to share with you in this quick video, the one secret I want to share with you is that if you really committed to learning the real art to persuasion and copywriting, you cannot go wrong if you stay with the classics.